Hello, I'm Maddie Tate, and today I'll be doing the sheep brain dissection. Here I have it, all opened up and everything. You can see the cerebrum, most of the brain. That is the cerebrum, and right here we have the cerebellum. The fissure, or the dive going in between, would be the longitudinal fissure, and it's separating the two hemispheres. This would be the right hemisphere, this would be the left. And between those, the valleys, the ridges, everything in between on the cerebrum, that is the cerebral cortex. And going along with the fissures, right here between the cerebellum and the cerebrum, we have the transverse fissure. And at the very bottom, we have the spinal cord. If we look at it deeper, we can see that the valleys, the gyrene, which is the hills and the ridges, that is the gyrene, or gyrus for singular. And the valleys would be the sulci. And that is pretty much it for now. Just going along here. See the back, cerebellum, spinal cord right here. Okay, let me get a better angle and take my glove off, and we'll get started on the dissection. Okay, there's a little bit better angle. And in the beginning, I forgot to point out the optic chiasm right here. They kind of crisscross right here. And also, I forgot to point out the lobes of the brain. So right here, this would be the posterior, and this would be the anterior part of the brain. But right here, we have the frontal. Behind that, and what that deals with is kind of like planning and higher level thinking. And behind the frontal, we would have the parietal lobe. And what that kind of deals with is the sensory, it has sensory processing and spatial memory. And all the way behind that would be the occipital lobe. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. And that deals with vision, of course. And on the sides, we have the temporal lobes, and they deal with auditory processing. And let's start to make a mid-sagittal cut down the longitudinal fissure. Okay, here we go. I'm going to make the mid-sagittal cut down the longitudinal fissure. Try to get the spinal cord straight. There we go. Okay, and that was pretty easy. Okay, now I'm going to point out the ventricles. Mine is very flat. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's try to squish it out a little bit. Okay. So if we point out the ventricles, these are the fluid-filled spaces in the brain, and it's filled with the cerebral spinal fluid, which that is what cushions the brain, kind of protects it. And so we've got the lateral ventricle. Mine's very squished. Okay, well, I know that our fourth ventricle is right underneath the cerebellum, right around here. There we go. And then we have the third ventricle. That is right here, that line. And our lateral ventricle would be this one right here. Let me get my right there. And there's our third ventricle and our fourth ventricle down here. Okay, and now let me talk about the corpus callosum, and that would be the loop. Let me look for it. The loop, mine's kind of hard to see, but it kind of looks, I've heard, like an upside down Nike sign. I believe it's right here. Oh, here, my light's kind of, let's get a better light. Oh. Okay. And it's just that upside down Nike sign. Oh, there we go. Right there. There's the corpus callosum. Okay, and that just connects the hemispheres, the right and left hemispheres, and the bottom of that would be the fornix. And that's right underneath the corpus callosum. Now, let's find the thalamus, which would be right around here, kind of beside the optic nerve, which is right here. Right there, optic nerve, and here is the thalamus. And the hypothalamus would be right underneath, so right here. Mine is very hard to see. It looks very squished. Maybe my left side's a little bit better. Well, or this is my right side. Left side, right side. Maybe my right side's a little bit better. We'll go back to this one. Okay, and behind the thalamus, which would be hard to see, would be the pineal gland, or the pineal body, which is that is the endocrine gland, or the endocrine gland, and it secretes melatonin, and that is behind the thalamus, like I said. Let me see if I can try to find it. Pineal gland should be over here. Spinal cord right here. Pineal gland should be around this area, the pineal gland. A little bit above the thalamus. Okay, and so after that, we'll go to the superior colliculus. Yes, colliculus, and that is just the midbrain portion that coordinates the movement of the eyes. Oh, so like the reflexes to light stimulus. And basically, I'm trying to find it. It's kind of, like I said, midbrain. I believe it is right here behind the pineal body. Yes, pineal body, and here is the superior colliculus. And so then we'll find the inferior colliculus, and that's just, well, it's inferior. It would be under here, behind, okay? And that is the reflexes to sound stimulus. So let's find the hypothalamus, which would be under the thalamus, which it would be around here, the hypothalamus, since the thalamus is right here with the optic nerve. So we can assume the hypothalamus is right here. It is very hard to see, but just right here with the optic nerve. Yes, right there. Okay, and then the midbrain would be just okay, hold on. Let's do the pons first. So the pons, it lays right before the cerebellum. So right here would be the pons. And then midbrain, pons, edge of the pons to the edge of the cerebrum is the medulla oblongata, and then of course the spinal cord. So medulla oblongata, midbrain, pons, and you can kind of see it. It's a different kind of shade right there. And then of course the branch-like tree structures with the white matter, that's the arbor vitae, and that's just the tree-like structures. Let me try to get it in the light. Yes, the tree-like structures in the cerebellum. That would be the arbor vitae, and that's just the branching of white matter in the cerebellum, like I said. And I think that's about covered most of it in the brain. We could go and look at the nerves. So if I put it back together, oh my goodness. If we put it back together, we go behind. Let's do it this way. Okay, they're pretty hard to see, but if we look at the nerves, like cranial nerve 1, cranial nerve 2, we can see the cranial nerve number 1 is the olfactory nerve, and that's the sense of smell, and that would be around up here. Around here. Around here. Mine is very squished. And so if we see optic nerve number 2, that would, cranial nerve number 2, I'm sorry, but that's the optic nerve. And it's around the optic chiasm, which that is the crossbody where it crosses. So around here, so the optic nerve are these two little, I guess they're just right there. Optic nerve, and that is in front of the optic nerve, okay. And behind that would be cranial nerve number 3, oculomotor nerve, and that is around here. Pretty small, but the oculomotor nerve. And behind that, the next one will be the trochlear nerve, which is cranial nerve number 4, and that is very tiny. Those are very tiny, but you can kind of, let me get my, here we go. Can you kind of see them? Yes. And that's the trochlear nerve, cranial nerve number 4. And under cranial nerve, that's under, that, and those are underneath cranial nerve number 5, which would be the trigeminal nerve. So if we look at cranial number 5, trochlear nerve is under, and cranial nerve number 5 is above. So it is around here, I believe, right here. These are the cranial nerve number 5s. And lastly, we have cranial nerve number 6, which is the abducens nerve. And those are very tiny. And let me see if I can kind of, I got one right here. Can you see that? One right here. And then the other right here. Oh, no, I'm wrong. That's not it. But it is around here. But yes, and that is the abducens nerve. And that's all the cranial nerves. I believe that is covering everything. I believe that's it. Let me flip my camera on real quick and go over it. Okay, that's the end of my sheep brain dissection. It was very interesting, honestly. I would say my brain was a little squished, but that doesn't matter. I think I covered most of the structures, but it was very interesting. So, thank you.